monopolize and bring the thing, whatever you want to start talking about.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Introduce her.
Get your chance.
This is Laura Pacer with Emergency Management. She's here to talk about a plan that the city needs to adopt that all cities in Polk County work together on.
I thought we was already in that with, emergency management.
We are, it's an updated plan, updated hazardous mitigation plan.
Correct. And we update it every 5 years, so if you have been on the city council for any length of time, longer than 5 years, you might recall going through this process. We invite all of the jurisdictions within Polk County to come together and talk about what hazards do we face as a county and specifically as Alleman, because from one jurisdiction to another within Polk County, our hazards can be different. And so we spend time identifying what those hazards are. The document that is approved by the commission as well as the state of Iowa and FEMA is about 600 pages. I wouldn't encourage you to look through all 600 pages. Really what you want to focus in on are the pages that are pertinent to Alleman. It becomes very redundant. Alleman's, I think you lead with the mitigation projects, and then from there you'll see in alphabetical order all of the jurisdictions and the projects that they have listed. Because you have a project listed here doesn't hold you
25 starts
to
us, 25.
absolutely having to do it. It just means that you've given some thought to, this is something that the city of Alleman is interested in. So when I look at section 4.8, I'm seeing two things listed for Alleman. I'm seeing that in this particular plan, construct the retention pond at northeast 134th has been deleted, and there's some notes by that. It talks about the project is complete, so maybe you could probably educate me quite a bit on that. Residents maintain new dry pond for stormwater runoff. Does that sound familiar?
That's in
Where in the world are we?
I didn't print that far back, sorry.
No, that's okay.
We only go to 227.
So there's different sections, and I found this on our website. This is just, there's just one other, and I'll pass this around so you guys can take a look at it.
Yep.
The second project that you have listed here, since that first one in this plan, we're saying, hey, that's completed. The next project is consider participation in NFIP, which is National Flood Insurance Program. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that, but it talks about, this is a project that is currently in progress and the clerk is working on related documents. So it's the top two for the city of Alleman, and you guys are welcome
Well, we didn't join this till 2022, the emergency management plan, or get a plan, a working plan. Brick just always went down there and brought no information back to us, so we didn't have anything nearly as what you're talking about, and since then, so this is all new to,
Okay.
they're all new, I've been here for a while, so,
All right.
yeah, we haven't been, I should say, active
Sure.
with
Sure.
emergency management for probably 2 or 4 years, something like that, so, yeah.
Well, if there are other things that you're interested in including in this plan, there's always time for you to do that. What I'm asking from an emergency management standpoint is I've been prodding all of the jurisdictions to go ahead and approve the plan as is. And if there's something you want to add to it, we can go back and we can do that. The reason you would want to approve this plan is it keeps Alleman current with the plan. And in the event that there were grant dollars available from FEMA, and we can, discuss all night whether the FEMA funds are going to be there or be frozen or given to the state, that's a whole other evening conversation probably. But, in the event that there were dollars available and Alleman would like to apply for grant dollars to do a project, the first thing that you have to do is you have to demonstrate that you're an eligible entity, and what you have to demonstrate is that you have approved this plan. So this is a compliance piece that I'm bringing to you tonight, asking you to go ahead and check this off for compliance sake. And then if you get to a place where we wanna talk about submitting a notice of interest because there's a project that you'd like to get funded, then you've already demonstrated to Homeland Security at the state level, as well as FEMA at the federal level, that you have participated in this plan, you have projects listed there, and you're interested in some funding.
So this is a fluid plan.
It is
You can
very,
move in with some things, and then if you feel the city doesn't, need that kind of participation in a certain, you can move out of that and go on.
yes.
So is there a fee with this?
No, this does
it's
not
all
cost
just
you anything.
A Polk County
Yeah.
emergency management
Yes,
funded?
correct,
Yep, okay.
correct.
Yes.
All them flood control projects they had to form out correct, are they gone now, or just some of them?
So are you talking about other jurisdictions that are in 4 Mile Creek?
They had a couple flood projects,
Yeah.
one by Ankeny, one
Yes.
in south there. They canceled the one we had, apparently. They was gonna do one off 134th back behind my house.
Okay,
They was gonna make it a sizable retention pond. They lost the funding for that apparently.
okay. You're asking me
Yeah.
that, and
Is
I
that part of it?
would have to say, I don't know. I should share with you that I've been with Polk County Emergency Management for about 1.5 years, and this is the very first kind of big projects that they gave me to work on. I know, as I mentioned, every city's got a bunch of projects listed, so it's possible that Ankeny had a retention pond project that they were going to do. And as I'm mentioning to you, if it's in there, you don't have to do it, you can do it, you're not required to by approving this plan. So it's very possible that some jurisdictions, the projects that they have listed there, they haven't gotten to them yet because they don't have the funding. So that could be what has happened. I know in the Des Moines area, that 4 Mile Creek, they've had really good success with having buyout programs. And so they've got a lot of green space now in Des Moines off of 42nd Street where they have no more housing there. They're not seeing that repetitive loss with residents because the homes aren't there anymore. They bought them out.
Where does this project originate?
So the projects originate by your representation at the Polk County meetings throughout the course of this project. So we invited many people to come over the course of this 1.5 years and have meetings about what's happening in your jurisdiction, what makes good sense, what projects would you like listed.
Okay.
Didn't we about 10, 12 years ago have Polk County give that farmer some money to do some ground erosion control with all that broken up concrete? You're supposed to get in there with a bulldozer and excavator and control that.
Where was that at?
The 4 Mile Creek.
At 4 Mile Creek? I don't remember that. I know we fixed that pipe by the pump house. You went down there and
We
fixed
did
all
that, but this
Yeah.
is,
But there's still
10 years
broken
before that.
concrete there that removed.
well, the whole deal was, I think county gave him permission to dump a bunch of broken up concrete down there. And the farmer had the responsibility or get funding from the county to put that alongside the creek for erosion control, which never got done.
Okay, so what I can do is I can research that to kind of find out what happened with that. Was it there, that there just wasn't the funds to do that, or was there a lack of willingness on the part of, sounds like it's private property?
There's private property back then, I can't remember who owned it.
Not now.
Okay,
No.
all right. So if that's a project you want to add to your plan, you want to see that happen moving forward?
Conservation's taken over.
Oh,
Yeah, they got it now, but this is way back then.
Okay,
So whether they're gonna do that now,
They are, yes.
in the future,
Yes.
Fraud, waste, and abuse.
always wondered what happened to that funding,
oh,
if it ever existed.
yeah, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. It's probably prior to me being in this position.
Yeah, okay.
Don't mean to interrupt, I'm curious, are you like our contact?
Sure,
point of
I can
contact?
be, you bet. I just held a meeting the other day and invited jurisdictions to come and learn more about the hazard mitigation plan. And so right now it's a plan, it's 600 pages, your jurisdiction, in theory, will approve it. And then the presentation that I held is, now what? So you've got this document, and you have some project listed. How do you make those projects move from just an idea on a piece of paper to potentially getting funded? So we talked about the notice of interest process. It can feel overwhelming to jurisdictions. It can feel like there's some bureaucracy and red tape. And I invited a gentleman from Homeland Security to walk through, and I brought some of his slides, just what a jurisdiction would want to do in order to let the state of Iowa know, here's Alleman, there's a couple of projects we're very interested in. I would encourage you to submit an NOI, and that lets the state know, here's Alleman, they've got some projects, and if and when money comes through, they can kind of point you in the right direction with regard to filling out the application. You don't have to feel like you need to know, does this fall under a BRIC grant, or is this a planning, a scoping, or an implementation? There are people like myself at Polk County Emergency Management that can help, as well as people at Homeland Security, which is where these applications go to be reviewed and then hopefully approved, and then funnels the money back to us.
And then the fire control stuff's on Polk County, means they got the land now, right? Okay.
I'm not familiar with that, or you wanna tell me a little bit more about that, fire control and?
If we have a brush fire in that field back there, Polk County,
Polk County Conservation Plan, yeah.
and they're responsible for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this sounds like it was a recent acquisition through Polk County Conservation?
Last 2 years.
Couple years, okay.
So I see here, this isn't just for your, health of your properties and everything. We're talking about unemployment, poverty, education, language, everything.
Yes.
It's health of your community
Yes.
along with your health of your structures, your surrounding area to prevent flooding and fire and.
So, at the start of this meeting, you were talking about things that you do to mitigate, storm damage.
Yeah.
And so educating people on that could be
Mhm.
part of this plan.
Yeah.
It's important to help people know there are things that you can do prior to a disaster that will put you in a better position.
Yeah.
If and when that disaster comes. And so certainly that's part of the effort of this plan, is to get the word out. In
Mhm.
Alleman, getting the word out might be a little easier than in Des Moines, just because of the sheer number of people.
Yeah, yeah.
And then languages that, we maybe have that maybe in Alleman you don't struggle with.
Anybody else got any questions? You like our entertainment style?
I do. I feel very welcome here. Have you, in terms of the NFIP, you talked about, you're working on that?
Forrest has reviewed it, Jim Thornton's reviewing it currently, and then we'll think about passing it this summer, this spring, this summer.
And
And even though we don't have properties that are touching 4 Mile Creek, we still need to have the floodplain in place for this document also.
right,
All of our runoff water runs to 4 Mile Creek,
Correct.
everything.
do you have any properties that are, have experienced repetitive loss?
Not due to 4 Mile Creek, just 6 inches of rain does no one any good, and how do you get rid of that in an expedient amount of time? We went through and cleaned out ditches, and to open the inlet and the outlet, hoping that a couple inches of rain would help clean that out, and it's helped a bunch, and we cleaned out a overflowed waterway between 2 major pipes, that helped out a bunch, and the flooding is,
Well, we have that storm sewer
Drop.
project
yeah.
this summer, so.
Yeah, and we are doing that too. It's, this part of town is getting, drops into the ground that are connecting into a majority of flood corners that they've been identified, and then some of it has to go over land, but it's, instead of having this kind of deal from, driveway to driveway or collapsed, culvert, now it can flow and then go out.
So that sounds like a public works project?
Yep, it'll start this spring.
And the funding for that is coming from just general budget or public works budget? Okay, okay, all right.
This should start this spring pretty good times.
Well, if there are other projects that you know that you have out on the horizon, and we wanna check to see if there's any funding from the state or FEMA level, to see if it would be eligible, talk to me about that, and I'll get you in touch with the right people.
Well, we had a plan to get a generator for up here,
That's a perfect,
so that during heat or loss of power, elderly people, whoever, the community could come here, we'd have the generator, you would have a cool spot or a warm spot if we lost it during the winter, cause, the weather's so, fickle now,
Yeah.
you could lose power in the winter, which
right.
I've never experienced, but it could happen.
Okay, so here's what I would like to suggest then. If you, I see that you don't have that generator project listed here.
Yeah.
If you just look a little further down, you'll see several jurisdictions that have that generator project. I would borrow their language and just specify it to Alleman, so that when you approve this plan, approve it as is with the addition of this project where you want to add. And
I
then,
have all that from when we did apply 5 years ago for generator and we're shut down.
okay.
No, we got Cameron said we got the funding.
No. At the time FEMA ran out of money and it was done.
Oh, okay.
So-
That was before my time, but
Wait,
That was
I
duration.
had talked to Cameron
Ratio?
about that.
Yep,
I remember
yeah, if you don't have a facility in your jurisdiction, like what you're
Yeah,
describing,
yeah.
where residents can come, to avoid,
Yeah.
cold or extreme
Well, it
heat,
could
that'd be a
accommodate-
great project.
whatever, however people we could get in here, but the community has 450,
423.
423.
Okay.
Building big enough to be in school.
And when the Smiths have a birthday party, it's 450.
So yeah, I would encourage you to add that, because that's a great one. And that sometimes gets funded. So again, I want to add the caveat that just because you add it in here doesn't mean the money's coming your way, but it's certainly a step closer. And then if you get that on, I will help you submit that NOI so that the state knows. Because sometimes they get some quick money that comes through that they need to turn around very quickly. And I kind of think about your NOI, that notice of interest, submitting that to the state is them like having a big bulletin board where they're putting up their, oh, this is what's happening in these different jurisdictions, and this is where we could maybe quickly get some money dispersed. If you don't submit that NOI, they're not looking at your name in your projects. Okay, so you really have to be an advocate for your jurisdiction and be reminding them on a regular basis. And by submitting that NOI, that'll give you a contact with the state to talk to about, okay, well, where can you go in terms of trying to apply for some
Well,
funding?
and then if we had that, if there was, the interstate was shut down and they had that information that we had a warm spot here within 2 miles of the interstate,
Yes,
they could bring the people here and get them out of the cold. So that's that community involvement and them having that information to where they could come here and bring and,
so there's, in my opinion, there's no downside to approving this. You're just saying, hey, we're part of Polk County, we are Alleman, we have some projects, and we want to be deemed eligible should some money come through. And then the next step, the next step is just letting us know projects you want to add to here.
I want to kind of throw this out there with Logan in mind. We got a couple wells here, we can furnish our own water. Is there any grants or anything if we need maintenance costs or help us with that?
I am not the right person to specify exactly how money gets handed out. Let me read to you kind of a list of things. Property acquisition, so we talked about that in the 4 mile area. Structure elevation, so if you have something you need to bring up. Localized flood risk reduction, non-localized flood risk reduction, dry flood proofing, secondary power source, that's your generator, protect electrical system, grid redundancy, warning systems, sirens, tornado safe rooms in the community or schools, retrofitting, stabilization or erosion control, aquifer recharge, storage and recovery, innovative mitigation projects. So talk to me a little bit about wells and,
We got a couple wells there. One time we had our own water system.
okay.
Now we're with more. Now we sell water to North Polk school system,
Non-potable.
non-potable.
Okay.
But if we wanted potable water in case of emergency, we could get something from the guard or
Okay.
big semi or something that fills the water.
Yeah. So I think that sounds like an innovative mitigation project that we should look into. Because the generator idea is to be there in the event that you lose electricity. Your idea is to be there in the event that, we have a water.
When water breaks down,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So I would again encourage you to put those projects in that you're thinking about, and then let's submit the information to the state so that the state has better awareness of what you'd like to have happen out here.
Because you can go to the guard and get a filter system for drinking water. They'll bring it out. It's emergency. So I like our wells hooked up to something like that
Sure.
for a city.
It's my
I just have
understanding
to-
that in an extreme event, then it would be
Emergency event,
like
yeah.
the National Guard has equipment to treat water, like hard water like that. And so I don't know if it would necessarily be through an emergency management or if that would be through
Well,
the
it's
National Guard. I mean, obviously they're our go-to, they help us,
Yeah.
coordinate everything, but
Because we put
that
one of
was
those
my
in Des Moines when, 93, I don't know what they got, 4 or 5 of them from the guard, parts of town, process water.
Well, our contacts at Homeland Security are much more versed at what the FEMA directives are with regard to how to direct the money. And they're the folks that work hand in hand with looking at the applications that come through and knowing this is where we're sending money right now with this grant. This is the focus. And sometimes it's generators, sometimes it's warning sirens, sometimes it's the safe rooms. It kind of goes in cycles as to what FEMA and the state is looking for. That's why I would encourage Tristan to get your projects in there, just so that there's this awareness. Because if you just approve this plan and you don't do anything else, nobody at the state knows.
It's gonna know.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to help you.
First of all, right off the top of my head, present company's always excluded in every conversation that I ever have, so please do not take offense to this. Federal money doesn't come without strings. It never does. What are those strings? I mean, we've been encouraged to adopt a plan that is, several hundred pages that we've also been advised not to read. That's scary. That doesn't.
Please read it all. Yeah, read it all. I just mean in terms of the investment of your time.
Sure, no, I understand that, that's why I said, please, President Cummings, it wasn't directed at you, but, just 30,000 foot view of this, it sounds great,
Yeah.
but there's always a but.
Well, if I could address that, there's a cost share, so, one of the cost shares is 75% of the money usually comes from the federal level. The state will kick in 10%, and then there's a local 15%. So it's important that you understand this isn't a windfall of, I just won the lottery, and this project is just gonna magically happen.
Right.
There would be an investment on the part of Alleman.
Sure, my main concerns are more along the lines of we have some sort of emergency. There is some sort of a disaster. And we want to get together as a community and grab chainsaws and whatever. But we've got somebody here from the federal government tells, no, you can't do that. You got to stand down, or something along that line. I don't want everyone to see that happen here.
Oh, they won't do that.
Yeah. My experience, and it's short-lived, so keep in mind it's a year and a half. So when I started this spring, there were the 6 tornadoes that came through the metro, and I'm charged with, I'm the resiliency coordinator, and recovery is one of the things that I work with. So I work very closely with Cameron, as you mentioned earlier. We were going around town and trying to figure out, okay, what is the damage, what's the extent, and what do we need to do with regard to recovery efforts. The stance that I continue to hear over and over again is the disaster starts locally and it ends locally.
What do I hear?
That is Bob on the phone.
Bob, can you mute your phone, please? Can you mute yourself, please?
We hear you
There's a lot of
talking.
background.
So, my experience with Pleasant Hill, when the tornado went through Pleasant Hill, FEMA's not on the ground right away. The people who are on the ground are your neighbors and your family and your friends and your churches, and those are the people who were there immediately, and those are the people that were there, you know, the first day after, the second, and the weeks. FEMA didn't get there until much later, and that's after a presidential declaration or the governor declares a disaster area. I did not see anything that prevented Pleasant Hill from doing what they wanted to do, or the individual homeowner from doing what they wanted to do. In fact, we're a very resilient bunch here in Polk County, and a lot of the recovery efforts started immediately after the tornado went through.
Well, most recently, the only reason this is fresh, top of mind, is most recently would have been what happened down in the southeast. We get bits and pieces of whatever the news wants to share with us or whatever comes across on the internet. But, there were horror stories of trucks full of water being told they couldn't come, things of that nature. And those things, that scares me, that our people would go, have at the subject of the whim of some FEMA agent telling people they can't get their help because it wasn't authorized or something silly.
Yeah, no, I hear you and I understand the concerns and heard all of those same stories. What I can share with you is my firsthand experience. This particular plan that you're looking at, the hazard mitigation plan, is all about doing projects to help set your community up to be more resilient, to weather those disasters better. What I'm hearing you talk about is the recovery and response efforts after the disaster, and that's different than this plan that I'm putting in front of you, which is list projects that you'd like to do if money were no object, if you could, dream the dream. And that's really some of the meetings that we talked about, is just don't worry about money right now, just list all the things that you think would make Alleman more resilient. So that's what this plan is about. The recovery and response that you're talking about, entirely different in terms of how quickly does FEMA get there, how much money does a person get who's just lost their home. I witness that being, if it's a fire, Red Cross will usually give a family a card and there's some money, and it depends on how big the family is, those kinds of things.
Or put them up in a motel for a week till they can get other housing accommodations lined up.
Hopefully their insurance is kicking in. You hope that the person has insurance and that, that Red Cross card is getting them through till they talk to their insurance company and get on their feet a little bit.
Yep.
So is it safe to say that this plan is here for us should we choose to use it if we're signed up for it? Doesn't mean we have to, if we choose not to. It's still 100% in our control whether we utilize anything in this. If we're not signed up for this plan, if something comes up that we could use the help, we can't because we're not signed up.
That is correct. And I think that's probably the most important thing that you should take away.
Right.
And I'm like, this shouldn't be high pressure sales, so if it feels like that, you don't have to approve this plan right now.
So the 75%, the 10%, 15%, that's if you have a tornado claim.
Like
That's
the
it.
derecho.
Yeah, like the derecho.
Yes. Well,
Or flooding.
that
And
was,
those are the percentages that come out when all the papers thrown out, this is what we spent, this is what we, and that's how it gets
Sure, yeah.
I
hashed out
think
to
we're
that.
getting two things
Just-
confused.
Well, Sherry and I just went through that with the tornado that kind of bounced through the,
White Oak area.
well, no, just our
South area.
southern area over here. And, the amount of damage we had, we didn't spend even, 24 hours, doing cleanup, so it didn't.
You didn't
It
hit the threshold.
Yeah, I worked with Cameron on that, me and
Yep.
Sherry, and we just didn't hit that,
Public assistance. I
that
think.
that threshold. So, we mobilized right away, we did everything, but we didn't.
We did use FEMA to help pay for cleaning up from the derecho. And it was, and our 15% was also covered by the labor that we had into it, including all the students helping us. So it wasn't like we had to actually put forth money.
Yeah.
The labor helped.
But there's another way to go at this, and so if this is feeling like high pressure sales and you're worried about it or unsure, you don't have to approve it. I can go back and just say, hey, Alleman wasn't interested, and then, should something happen, there be a disaster that comes through, and you're sitting in a place where, hey, we've got some projects and we notice now that there's some funding available, you can approve it later. You can approve it after the disaster. You can put your NOI in then, and you can, see about money. I'm just going around and encouraging jurisdictions to do it now because there's money.
We can make this decision on our next meeting next month.
Correct.
Go either way.
Yeah. Yes.
I was just, if I had talked to Cameron a while back about, like tornado sirens and stuff, this is a part of that, funding for that as well.
You could.
Because it's a mitigation effort.
Yep, if Alleman were to approve this plan and add, warning systems sirens on here, and then you submitted an NOI, and then FEMA sends through some money, and then the state says, hey, Alleman, look, they got a project, and
I was just curious if that was
Yep.
a part of this or if
It
that
would
was
be-
separate.
it's definitely a mitigation project. I'm not here to guarantee that the funding would come through. What I'm here to share with you is, in order to check that first box in applying for any of these grant dollars, you have to demonstrate that you are eligible, and being eligible means you've accrued the funding. Perfect.
I will have this.
And if we have questions, who can we contact?
You can contact me. You've got my contact information.
Yeah,
Do you mind
sure.
sharing it with them?
I will.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. And then, if you approve the plan,
Where could he find that 600 page?
Yes, that's what I was gonna ask you.
yes.
Do you have it on tape?
Because I heard that thing, but it has the secret zip, so I didn't want to forward that.
So you have access to it. Were you
Yes.
able to open it up?
Yes.
Okay, so.
That's how I got this much printed from
Yes,
them.
good. So you have access to it, which is important. You need to have that. But is it easy for you to pull up our website, or you don't want to mess with what you've got going on? On our website, I can show you where it's at.
I don't think they want to read
Sharing
these
my
everybody's
contact
stuff.
information. We can point everybody to where it lives, but it's putting emergency management across the top. We have
And the old
plans.
document was up there, the 2020.
It was, but we
up
took it
there.
out because that one is no more. This one replaced it because it has already been commission approved by Homeland Security, approved by FEMA.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah. You guys have a great evening.
You as well.
Thank you
I'll
for your
see you
patience.
Wednesday.
No problem, that sounds good.
Do you have Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff, you are up. I don't think I've got you. I think you are muted personally. Yep, okay.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Well, I'm glad technology came through on my phone, sorry.
We got it working.
If you received these.
I was
So
kind
can you, hear me? Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yes.
You're good.
Fantastic. I can, hear kind of, so, just talk real slow if you have any questions, but, as long as you can hear me, that's the main thing. I guess let's start off with the questions. So, we're talking about, roadside plans and IRBM plan, and Sherry said that there was some questions, from some of the city council folks, so I'm here to answer questions. And maybe most importantly, why does Alleman need a roadside plan?
Yes, could you explain that to start with?
presentation on this, so once I get it posted to YouTube, you guys can watch the presentation that we give on this. But the basics are a roadside plan is valuable for a couple of different reasons. If we're honest, failing to plan is planning to fail. So if we just have something in place, that's always a good thing. You just heard this presentation by FEMA, and so this is another instance where everybody wants to have a plan from the federal government on down to the local government, and so that's what this is all about. This roadside plan will outline how the city manages their roadsides. And so this opportunity for a roadside plan comes from state code adopted in 1988, and it has been utilized primarily by the counties since that time, although cities were always eligible from the get-go. The focus was more on the counties and having them manage their roadsides. About 7 years ago, with some new leadership at the DOT, they decided to have a push for cities to have an opportunity as well to utilize some of the grant programs and some of the funding that goes with that. And so Teresa River has been working with the Living Roadway Trust Fund since that time to get cities signed up for roadside plans so that they can have the same opportunities that our counties have had since 1988. The other main reason to have a roadside plan is going to be for continuity. So I live up here in northern Kasuth County, and our county seat is Algona. Algona has two major state highways that run through it, Highway 18, Highway 169, and so there is some shared responsibilities between state and the city of Algona, and so there was some institutional knowledge where some folks knew what was supposed to be mowed where, and after some turnover in public works there in Algona, they lost some of that institutional knowledge, and there was some uncertainty in terms of where we were supposed to be mowing, who was supposed to be mowing, and so a plan like a roadside plan would actually have in maps where those activities are taking place. And the final reason, and probably the most beneficial, is that it makes Alleman eligible for grant funding every single year. The Living Roadway Trust Fund has funding available. June 1st is the grant deadline. There's 13 different grant categories, all sorts of different possibilities, but the one that most cities have utilized is for equipment cost share. So for instance, Royal, which is a small town up here in Clay County, not far from Spencer, they received some cost share funding for a stump grinder to remove the stumps for the trees in their right of way. And Gilmore City got some funding, for a chipper, so if they could actually chip up a lot of their brush that they trimmed out of their right of ways. So that's two uses of the program grant funding. There's also the possibility to utilize it for entryway plantings or right-of-way tree plantings, if that's your thing. Something that Logan purked his ears up about, there is some cost share for chemical storage facility. So like one of the big giant, one of the, sort I'm looking for here. Think of it like a giant,
It's hazardous
Snap-on.
material
Snap-on.
storage. Yeah.
toolkit, but like for your chemicals, like a I don't know, a big closet. Anyways, long story short, there's some cost share available for things like that. There's even cost share available to San Logan for training and updates to manage the roadsides better and all of it. So all sorts of different opportunities.
Does anybody have any further questions then for the resolution?
So how's this break down? There's no cost to the city, but there is a cost share. And what's that break down to?
Zero cost would be free. Yeah, there's no cost associated with the roadside plan. The roadside plan is actually just a prerequisite to get to the grant funding if you should need it. And of course, if you don't need the grant funding, you don't necessarily need the roadside plan, but it's good to have on file, certainly.
But what's the percentage breakdown for the cost sharing for mower, chainsaw, weed trimmer, pole saw,
That would be up to the grant.
that would be,
Yeah, I don't know what that exact cost share is, I think it's 80/20,
okay?
but,
Yeah, that's close enough. We're not,
a whole book that's got those details in it.
yep,
And there are some caps, I just threw that out there too.
oh, sure, there's always that.
There's caps on certain pieces of equipment, so, you know, cedars and stuff like that, usually are capped at like $12,000 or $15,000.
Yeah.
Not that you necessarily need something like that, but, yeah. Oh, and here's the big one, this is the number one question I get. No, lawnmowers are not eligible pieces of equipment. Even though you use them in your roadside, you may be doing mowing and stuff like that, that's considered a general use piece of equipment, and so they only cost share with more specialized pieces of equipment, I guess.
I have a question that'd be more internal than external. What roads are we looking at that this would apply to?
This one out here, 142nd and 6th, that's about it.
Any roadside where we actually have right of way, and I actively do any kind of maintenance.
So which roads are they?
Isn't it all stuff in blue?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't get it?
there's two packets.
Here, you can have mine.
Two packets.
You got it.
You got it, there's two packets.
Everything in blue, I'm assuming, is what would fall under this. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So my
So
question,
just a little bit of clarification there. So, roadside in your community, in your town, are gonna be just a little bit different, obviously, than the ditches in our counties. So if we consider the roadside in your town, that area between the road and the sidewalk, if you have sidewalks present, and if not, forgive me, whatever feet it is from the center of the road, that's the roadside. And so most cities, 99% of all of them, have turf grass growing there, right, that many times the landowner, the residential homeowner is responsible for. Sometimes there might be trees there, sometimes not, but that's considered your roadside. And so from a management perspective, again, for 99% of all of our towns in Iowa, the landowner, the residential homeowner manages that roadside for the most part, cutting the grass and stuff like that. If there's a tree there, again, sometimes the homeowner will take care of it, sometimes not. And then in most cities, if it's a small issue that they have the capacity to just do with a chainsaw or a pole saw, again, in most cities, they can handle some small stuff. But then if there's larger things, like a major limb comes down or a tree split, then they hire a contractor. And like that's the extent, again, in 99% of our towns, of how you manage your roadsides. What we've identified on those maps are going to be those areas that are considered the roadsides within your community that the city does some sort of management on. And in this case, I think it's just mowing. And so that's where we highlight those areas where the city specifically is doing some management within that roadside. So again, to use, I'm going ahead as the example of Highway 18, Highway 169, and so we identified those areas that the city was mowing, those areas that the state would come in and do some mowing or treatment or whatever the case may be. So in all of them there, it's going to be all of your roadsides within town are part of this IRDM plan. What we have simply identified with the maps there are places where the city is doing some sort of activity. And again, we've identified that as, I think, mowing.
so if we would go under this plan, do we have to do anything specific to them? I mean, we don't change any of the way we do anything, so I don't
No,
understand
it's
what
purely,
the purpose is.
part of the process.
That's I guess, the key take home here, is that because almost all cities manage their right-of-ways in the same way, it's just turf grass that homeowners or residences manage. Whatever trees are there are managed either a combination of the homeowner or the city, whatever. You know, there is no changes that would need to be made at the city level. You know, a lot of what IRBM is about is, you know, managing noxious weeds thistles down and stuff like that. Well, in cities, we already want that anyway, so we want to see weeds and thistles the right away. And so, yeah, there's no change that I anticipate. And there's no limitations either, so this doesn't say you can't do certain types of things. It simply recognizes that we manage our roadways in all sorts of different ways. And specifically for you guys, again, homeowners that mow their lawns and whatever trees might be there.
Very good.
Any further questions?
Any more questions, anyone?
Nope.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, stay warm, everyone. Take care.
Hey, Jeff.
Get out of here.
It's the red one up at the.
Get your kids, they can do it.
Jason, you're up.
So he was gonna be here, because he looks so kind of.
Hi, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Jason. Jason is with us tonight
Before we
because,
get started into my thing, do you guys mind if we touch just a little bit on your emergency services thing? Because that happened with me 15 years ago, back when Amanda was a cop. And you have a resource at B&K because you're a B&K client that you probably don't even know about. Leon Freeman is your resource. When, God forbid, the tornado, the flood, the this or that, whatever happens physical that could hit your town, I think Amanda probably remembers the flood that happened in Colby Park. Yeah?
I was working that night.
Yeah, I remember, do you remember how new I was back then?
Yeah.
I was brand new. I had no idea what I was doing when that happened. That was a FEMA event, and I didn't know my staff's name at that time. So, anyway, back to Leon. He came to B&K from Homeland Security. All B&K clients are eligible to use him for free. He shows up at your town when these events happen because putting together the paperwork, getting the funding that's available, making sure all your ducks are in a row is what he does best. And so that is a really nice resource that I bet that some of you at the table didn't even realize even existed. He literally shows up at that table where you're at and has paperwork everywhere, getting it ready to go so that you don't leave money that FEMA might have eligible for your town. So there's that. The other good thing about the Emergency Management Services, AJ Mom is still the director. I just looked him up while we were waiting. They have tabletop exercises for Logan to go and be a part of and learn and build relationships and establish 2080s and all kinds of different things, so that when these events happen, you're ready for it. You know how to do it. Being quote unquote shovel ready for getting a generator because funding's available, your EOC, your Emergency Operations Center, all kinds of different things. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about it. It's a lot. It really is. It's a lot of stuff. But we had to use it when I was a Public Works Director because it oftentimes falls on Public Works to clean up the messes. And having that funding available and those resources, it's a nice thing. So that's all I got to say about that. Any questions?
Say his name again?
Leon Freeman.
Leon Freeman.
My name?
No, his.
Oh, Leon Freeman.
Leon Freeman.
Okay, thank you.
I am going down on the 20th. I've got 95 pages of documents. They're having exactly what he was talking about. Is they're having that on the 20th. It's funny that he would mention that. So.
Cool.
Any questions?
We're good on that.
On this.
Yeah.
All right. Logan or Sherry, obviously we can talk about this tomorrow whenever you guys feel that you have more questions about it. I'm happy to, whatever I can help you out with, I'm happy to. So, let's get to the topic of the night, shipping containers. I sent over that draft ordinance for you guys to look over, make your own, throw it away, whatever you want to do. It happens in my world way too often. How about today? and they come up. I've got a really good way of handling this. No.
So.
The shipping container is a shipping container. There's a place for them. Having them in a residential area typically makes my phone ring, makes neighbors mad, makes them show up at your meetings. So, I mean, you guys can do whatever you want to in your city, but I'll tell you what, it is definitely a source of contention. Having them in commercial, light industrial areas, what they're doing is skirting the building, because they don't want to build a building. They want to go on Facebook and buy one for $500 and plop it out back or out front, or buy multiple of them and plop them around. And that really is not typically the look that a municipality wants to have. We've even had instances of people living in them. It's just honestly, it's a sore subject with me. You can probably get my tone. Questions so far?
Nope.
Are you guys on my side on this topic?
I like
Seems like
it. I like it.
Awesome. Good. I could name a community that we take care of that they had a few that sat at the table. They did not. They wanted to have people build houses and all kinds of different things with these, and I had to be the one that was the black hat, which I often am, and I'm happy to do that. But anyway, if we're to the point in the conversation that you need to prohibit them, I would make it very clear that all zoning districts, they are not allowed. For those who do have them, a nastygram from the city attorney that they need to be removed within a certain amount of days or face municipal infraction fines per day. End of statement.
Is there anything in our code as of today that restricts shipping containers?
No.
No.
So now when you implement this, you're basically forcing anybody that has one to get rid of it.
A certain amount of time.
You
that's
are
what
correct.
Jason said.
To answer you really clearly, there's nothing in a shipping container is a shipping container. And
It's
so
like an outbuilding.
the residential code, all these different things, because there's lots of, if you allow a person to put stuff in a semi-trailer, you probably had that before, or a cube van bed, or a pickup bed with a tarp over it, or the list goes on and on and on. Of what people, they have no bearing on what they'll make it look like Sanford does place out there. So, to answer your question, there is no recognition of a shipping container to be used in your city. This ordinance specifically calls it out and provides guidance for removal.
There's no such thing as a grandfather, because we have one, I think, they can't say, well,
You could,
grandfather.
if you chose to do that, I think this is the mayor talking, isn't he?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mayor, if you chose to do that, in my opinion, you're opening up Pandora's box, is what you're
well,
doing.
yeah, I know.
If he can do it, why can't I do it? He can do it, why can't I have three?
I'm
Better
just trying
to
to
just be
figure out
done
what
with
to
it,
do.
and he wants to get rid of it, great. If he wants to build on, whatever that person wants to do, but a shipping container shouldn't be the option.
Okay, and that's what my question was. I said, well, it's already there, it's been sitting there, and we haven't taken any action on it, and I don't want somebody to come back and grandfather or whatever, it's,
Right.
it's fair game right now, as we speak.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
And
that's-
if you
that's-
wanted to extend an olive
that's-
branch at all, you folks at the table can say, maybe not 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever days you choose, to grant that. That's up to you guys to come up with that.
Okay. And I believe you've already talked with the property owner kind of given him some options as to what he can do, correct?
Correct, yes, yeah.
I mean, if he
Yeah,
wants to get
the
rid of
unnamed
the
property
addition
owner that we're talking
building
about
The
or-
property owner
is
is
in the
here.
commercial district
Hey, Craig.
and is using his commercial building as personal storage.
Okay.
That is not a permitted use in a commercial district. The commercial district is used for commercial.
Yeah, okay, I just, throughout the years, I think the co-ops built stuff there, and all that stuff just kind of migrated there, I guess, and then the county has their facility there, and I guess I've always had the opinion, well, if it's against the rules and it doesn't perform, I know all too well that I can make one person happy and 10 people mad,
You're correct.
and that's what we don't want to do. And I guarantee it happens every time. But, also, the owner in question, if there is a way, for him to remedy his situation, then we should counsel him on remedying it. But you know what? If there's no way, there's just no way, and I'm sorry, but if there's no way, there's no way, so you gotta be honest with them up front, because we spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, hey, I just want to give you a warning that we've only got a few minutes remaining on the meeting call with Jason here.
Jason, we have a question. We get fireworks stands come into town and during the 4th of July, and typically they sell out of a shipping container. Would that fall under this also, do you think, or is that something separate?
And they're, temporary basis.
That's a great question. And there are rules and regulations in the Iowa code for this. You can't prohibit them from happening. To be really clear, you are talking to a fireworks hater. That's probably not a surprise, but it's totally true. And there are ways that your building official can facilitate. If you feel the same way that I do you guys feel that way about them?
Fireworks?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah. Well, then, we're not gonna prohibit them from selling them in your town. However, we can require them to get a special use permit. We can require that to go through council approval. And boy, those meetings take a long time to meet and get together and happen, because when they call in mid-June and want this to happen, as they always do in every one of my communities, sure, we can do that. Please fill this form out, and they meet the second week in July, and then the council will approve that in August. That usually ends the conversation pretty quick.
You do hate fireworks.
You smell what I'm cooking?
I got a question for you. If a person's remodeling a house, can they have them iPads or iPods, whatever they call them, out in the driveway?
Shipping pods.
Just a pod.
Shipping pods.
It's just a pod, it's not a shipping container.
It is a shipping container.
It
They put it on a
is.
semi and ship.
That's for us to decide, though. I mean, that's kind of one of.
How did that guy get away with building that big shed then? And if we can do whatever we want and vote on it, how did he build that big shed and not connect that shed with an enclosed breezeway?
Oh, boy.
How did he do that?
Because it's in the ordinances.
Well, I think we had about 3 topics happen right there at the same time, didn't we?
Yeah, well,
Let's go to the first one. Sherry, get this meeting under control.
Okay. He's
So
referring
your
to,
thoughts, you're moving from Tallahassee to Alleman, and all your stuff are in 1 or 2 pods. From personal experience, those are very expensive, and you pay dearly to have them into your driveway, nearly by the hour. That conversation solves themselves. Did I answer that question for you, sir?
Yeah, you did pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Now, like I had today in Kenora, this gentleman, had a fire and wants to move all of his belongings to a shipping container while fire restoration is happening. That logical conversation is fine with me. We're happy to do that way ahead of, before it shows up, you know, in the driveway. Get it all in writing, put it all in a timeline, and hold their feet to it. I have no problem dealing with logical people like that, not at all, that's just fine. So that should answer that. Talking about the gentleman with the breezeway, that's the building that we had to kind of force his hand to attach it because his plans called for that attachment. Is that what we're talking about,
Yeah,
Barry?
yeah, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so that garage is part of his house now because he has a breezeway. So he just expanded his house. He had no intentions of ever following through with that until we had to have an inspirational discussion by yours truly and him.
Is there a breezeway there, an enclosed walkway with a door on one end and a door on the other? Cause I drove by there probably late this fall and it looked like it was a roof coming off, going to his house, and that was that. But now it is an enclosed breezeway with an entrance to the house and an entrance to the shed. Very good.
All part of the same house, but he had no intentions of ever.
No, he did not, after he came up here and gave us the shim sham shuffle.
Yes, he did.
Very good, thank you for that.
Any further questions for Jason?
Oh,
Thank you, sir.
That's
Thanks,
it.
thanks,
Jason.
Jason.
That's all you got?
That's all.
All right.
Bye, Jason.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Okay, next on the agenda, Lauren.
Consider the amendment of code, Alleman, chapter 69, charter 69. Chapter.
Snow thing?
The snow.
Snow removal? Is that
It's,
Pardon?
there's a big tab, if you guys wanna look at it in the book, that's labeled snow.
Yeah. So I brought that up and asked that it be applied to the agenda, last week at our regular meeting. Because of the signage that appears, at least in my neighborhood, makes it appear as though that the ordinance is that there is no parking on the street from November 1 to April 1.
Correct.
Period. But if you read the code, that's not what it says. It says during a snow removal operations, unless the snow has been removed or plowed from said street county or parking area, and the snow has ceased to fall. So basically what that's, the sign doesn't jive with the code, and the code seems like it's correct. And I guess that's where we're at. I mean,
Logan, do you have a problem with people parking on the street in snow events?
During snow events?
Yeah.
Yes, mainly because the complaint,
Are we still recording this?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
The complaint would come to me then that I have now plowed them in because I don't prefer to call and have people ticketed. So I usually just continue on with my plowing. However, I don't ever say anything about anybody parking on the street when the snow has been removed. I think we will need to give sufficient information to the residents of how long during and after a snow event they will need to not park. So for instance, we had a snow event, I plowed snow, we got some more snow, did it again. The very next day, I came back with the tractor and I was doing stuff. Technically, all the snow had been removed off the roads. It was really just a lot of edge cleanup, a lot of scraping of snowpack and around curves and things like that. But they could, could have an impact on what we're doing at that time. When we replaced the signage that was no longer retroflective, we just simply replaced the signage that was already existing. So the The signs have not been changed, the wording or anything like that has not been changed since the original signs went up 25, I don't know how long. They were up quite a while from the.
Is it the same occurrence at the same house, or is it new people all the time? We're not
No,
educating our
because everybody's gonna
community
have something
enough?
different going on in their lives. And the city, it's not the city's responsibility to know what's going on in their lives.
Well, no, I'm thinking we're not educating them enough so that they understand the dynamics of snow pushing. Is that something we have on the computer?
No, I don't typically have an issue. It's, maybe someone's coming to check on a relative, or somebody's got a birthday party going on and there's a few cars parked on the street. It's just, something that is like, something the city's not gonna be able to foresee, you know what I mean?
I think they moved from Des Moines.
I think we should probably maybe clean up the language
Yeah,
I think
the
that
signs
on
need
the
to
signs.
be, yeah.
on the signs, but maybe also in our code. Just because I come from a code that says 24 hours after the last snowfall. So that would give him enough time to clear after the snowfall stops. Does that make sense? So then he could do that edge work and everything without having to worry about possibly going on a car, around
Yep,
a car or whatever. That is what our code was, that's what I enforced for many years, was the 24 hours after the last snowfall.
And that's specific.
And
You
that's
can't-
very specific, yes.
Right
Yep.
here is, it's not specific
It's kinda
enough,
gray.
it could,
Yeah.
potentially just have lined us up in court,
Yeah,
battling with somebody over, well, you never said how long.
You plowed me in.
yeah.
Well, that you deserve.
I've seen them back, pushed up high. Okay,
Bring me my phone. I have a picture of the Ames signs.
clear up language
Like that.
and educate community.
Yes, and then, clear up.
I will say
Clear up
that,
language.
I mean, I've done, the massive snow last year. I had no problems with anybody parking on the road or anything like that. And the only time I've ever had someone that has actually parked on the road, they were either clearing their driveway and they were moving their car right back, which is no big deal. Or it's like somebody from out of town is coming in to check on an elderly resident here. And I've never said, oh, you're gonna get a ticket or whatever else. It's usually like, oh, I'm checking on this person and, okay, yeah, I'll come back. It's a small town, it's not gonna take, anything. So I usually just kinda, so I don't necessarily have a
Just to be
preference
clear,
as to,
just to be clear, this was never instigated by any perceived problems.
oh,
You never saw it.
That's what
Issues.
issues. I thought it was interesting. It doesn't have a time, it just says until the road clears now.
Well, and that
That can be
verbiage is
left to
fine for.
interpretation.
Well, it can, it could be left open to interpretation, except that if it references the city code number at the bottom of the sign. And
So you
then,
need that,
done.
yeah.
yeah.
and.
Yeah, ours do reference the code number. I know that, 'cause I had to put that on there, it's ordinance, yada, yada. Cause it was on the last ones. Most of the snows, 24 hours afterwards is perfectly fine, normally. Most of our snowfalls come overnight anyways. The few snowstorms that we do get, they're during the day, they're the big snow events and they're going all day long, you know what I mean? So, like Snowmageddon last year, I think everybody just uses common sense. Hey, there's 4-foot drifts across the road here. Maybe I should, park on the road even though it's been, 48 hours worth of snow still blowing. So, I think I kind of agree with Amanda on this. Is even a clear cut time frame is more appropriate.
Tighten up the language a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
There's that.
Yep. Number 5, just really quickly, The land use map is one of the things that we're redoing in the comp plan, so this is the current one that's being updated. So in the code book, I have labeled commercial and industrial, just so you guys could see that it lists out the businesses that can be in those areas. So like out there along the highway at Smokies that we were talking about last week, here's the list of the businesses under commercial that can be there. That's what I did back here, sorry, I didn't print those pages.
Yep,
just got
I
them.
understand that.
Yeah.
It's-
So animal, antique, automobile, barber shops.
Yeah. And since there was a question, under industrial, it does allow adult-oriented businesses.
Ballroom dancing, I think we
Ballroom
should open
dancing.
that one.
Is there any industrial in Alleman?
Yeah, well, I don't know why this map is not listed, but it's not.
No, I don't believe there is.
I think that.
It's all commercial or residential.
I think the co-op is listed as, industrial.
It should be, but it's not.
Co-op's
Well,
listed
the
as
co-op's
sales.
It's got sales and
Sales and
services.
Sales and services.
Service.
I'll have to confirm that, but
Mixing and
I
grinding.
So the two in the middle of town is the church and their lot.
Correct.
Yep.
Did anybody have any questions on that? That's always available in your code book.
So,
No, you got it straightened out at the last meeting.
we'll see what the map looks like in the new comp plan.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
good.
Why are some of the houses in an ag, zoned ag?
As it-
They never changed it from residential.
Mine is zoned ag. And Rob's.
Go get a cow.
I know.
I want a cow, I'm gonna get a cow and I'll
Build a
feed your
barn.
I
house.
think your taxes are probably lower, so shush.
Bullshit.
We need a swear jar up here, sorry.
My apologies.
Well, I can.
Don't dig into it, 'cause it'll probably bite me in the butt. But
Yes.
I'm just curious. It just,
What's your
Well,
address?
I
it's the
am,
one in green.
I
No,
am
I know
curious,
that.
like I said, I am curious to know because we are assuming that the water issues along the city right of way connected to your property,
That's what it is.
we are assuming that it is agricultural tile that runs through there, and that's what the problem is. Is that, could that have been the reason that you were
That's
zoned
an interesting
agricultural?
answer.
Because
What's your address?
you're,
It's the same.
Well, it should come clear through there running to 4 Mile Creek.
Really?
It should be through Dentler, that,
well,
because,
by that theory,
50.
by that theory, Amanda should also be agricultural.
And it's
because-
not.
And it's not, and neither is,
well, that's what I'm
you
saying.
know,
So that shouldn't hold water on the north side of the road.
Who, was there actually P&Z and council that zoned that development in which Amanda lives?
Yeah, that was done during the development of, when the developer owned the lots.
Yes.
Okay.
So, maybe it was before, well, yeah, I would assume. Didn't you say there was cows grazing on that land?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Pasture.
So it would have been agricultural.
Yeah,
At
that would have
We
been.
still have their fences in our backyard, if you've ever been in our backyard, we still have the wood fence.
So they rezoned you
For
when
the
they
cows.
developed.
I
They
know.
rezoned it up to, is there a lot behind your house?
We own the lot behind our house, it's a separate lot,
Right,
but it's still zoned, you can't build on it, it's unbuildable, but it's still
because that
zoned
creek goes
You're in
in
the,
residential.
you're in the floodplain.
It's still owned residential.
the
Yeah.
floodplain.
They did bring cows out of there.
Hey,
Apparently, it probably didn't get filed down
They
in
took
Polk
the
County.
fence down between the cornfield and the other side of the creek, so.
Yeah.
That
Because
fence down.
Muhlenthaler was taking care of all that stuff
Because we used to have
The old
cows
man.
back there all the time.
in the
I
day.
feed them once in a while.
That could be very well, because,
I got kind of cool.
that could be
picture
very
of
well,
some
because I know that,
About the cows and kids.
another resident in that cul-de-sac, they had an issue with,
Because the way that went down is he sold a lot and they built a house.
Well-
And then they sold a lot and then they built a house. He didn't go
It
and
is agriculture.
when they
do all
built
the
the
lots
house.
and then say, here, I wanna,
They built a house in the cul-de-sac that crossed multiple lots, and the county still has them split as separate lots, but we've got it,
Are we
Yeah.
talking in the
yeah, the
Meadow Point?
the middle point.
Yeah.
So, could have just been a hiccup with the,
with the filing,
with the,
Two.
yeah, the county.
that we never got or they didn't do or.
I know they had a hiccup, and that's brand new development, obviously, there was a hiccup there, so could very well be.
That should be number 6.
Yeah, let's move on to number 6. Just an open discussion on the code enforcement for like,
For 6 months at a time.
yeah.
How
What
does everybody
Harrison
feel
was
about it?
talking about last week, if you guys have questions. He did send over a copy of the, what his new invoice would look like, that's what's on top.
What did were we charged last year, and what does this, is this the same contract, or is this, revised,
No.
more expensive contract?
Jim looked through it and Jim said it's the exact same contract, the exact same rate. They did take out the line for, I think they did anyway, I didn't notice it, but it's there pointed out, where they charge us to drive here.
Yeah, it's in there.
$35
Is
an
it
hour.
there? Okay.
For 6
How much did we spend last year?
6 times 6, $3,600.
I don't mean that, because he's got $75 an hour over an 8-hour
Yeah.
deal, so it can be more than that.
Well, that, and I remember seeing a specific line item where we were charged mileage for 75 miles. You'd have to drive around here all day, every day to get 75 miles in.
It's only a mile wide and a mile.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There ain't 75 miles to get in a month, that's just,
Counts for when you leave the office.
yeah.
Pretty sure that's.
But is that what it says?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't,
But-
I'm not interested in extending it, so
Yeah.
I have no desire to read anything on it, so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't, it's a waste of our money.
It was kind of funny that 4 of the people that got notices were on the questionable doings for 2 or 3 years before this. Poor Comegys can't barely do nothing, and let that be on.
Any other questions on it?
No, I think for the city it's a good thing, but that's my opinion.
Think it's what?
A good thing, that I don't think any of us should be knocking on people's doors
To enforce the code.
to enforce a code.
So let's bring it up for a vote next time city council meeting comes around.
But we do have to come up with, I mean, let's just say hypothetically that this comes up for a vote, it gets voted down, then what? We need some mechanism somehow, without putting anyone in harm's way or an awkward position with face-to-face encounters with potentially angry people. It needs to be sort of arm's length in that maybe we look at the mechanism where if there is multiple complaints from residents to the city about a specific potential violation, that becomes a certified letter on city letterhead. And that goes through the mail and doesn't get handed off directly and is just this has come to our attention, these things.
That might be an issue with our lawyer. File paperwork to do something like that. And I don't know if that Beaster and Kim would be that side of that program or not
You're talking like the same thing that I do with
for the city.
what you council
They
decides.
don't do it, and
I
that's
don't think
why
so.
these guys are actually Beaster Kim employees. It's
Pictures
not
are taken and
because
the
Right.
lawyer does the.
it's something that Beaster
That'd
Kim.
be part of
has-
Beaster and Kim's going through that system.
No,
No, that's Kim,
it
that
doesn't
Kim's
have, it doesn't have
Beaster.
anything to do with them, no.
No, they're not into code enforcement.
No, it's separate.
There's-
They said there's a need.
Just happens. to
That
be-
Kim works for Beaster and Kim,
Correct.
goes here Monday.
It's a side job, yeah.
It's a side job.
Yes,
He's associated with it if,
yes.
okay, that's what I'm after.
It started with Jason Van Osdale.
Huh?
It started with Jason Van Osdale, who was just talking to us. That's where it started from.
Yeah.
It was his company.
And that's his kid.
I understand.
Okay, I didn't know if you knew Harrison.
Well, these aren't the same contracts, because we're paying $400 a month, it's going up to $600. It was $50 an hour, and it went up to $75. 67 cents per mile for traveling, which is 46 miles 1 month, 46 miles, 93 miles another month. So
That's
that's
just not possible.
that's 3 months right there.
It's not
That we have.
possible to get 96 miles in 1 month for this community. It's not possible. Now, does that end up to be a lot of money at the end of the day? No. Is it money that we shouldn't be paying? Yeah.
Well, it's went up 50% on everything. You talk to the lawyer, he needs to cross-reference what he's reading, because it ain't the same. When you change the numbers on a contract, it's not the same.
I'll bring it up at the next city council meeting. On the agenda.
This is your turn.
Yeah.
If the fees were lower, would you consider it? I know you wouldn't.
No.
Would you consider it if the fees were lower? If we negotiated difference in the contracts, like they only come out if we have 1, 2, or 3 complaints to Sherry or to somebody else within the city, or they only come out if, or what if? Does that make sense? Like, put stipulations, like,
Well, if we're basing it on the complaints that come into the city desk, or to any member of the council or public works directly, then why do we need them? I guess is
because
the
I
long
think
and the
that
short
we
of it.
need a, code enforcement is, I've done it, so code enforcement is a very, like you said, can be very heated. So if I have somebody that's complaining about my boat on my lawn or whatever, I'm the type of neighbor that, hey, just come talk to me about it. But maybe the neighbor doesn't like me and it becomes, then the sheriff comes out or one of you guys, or if I don't like one of you guys and you come to talk to me about my boat, and then things can get escalated really quickly.
Well, that's
And
what
like he said, some people have moved here from out of town just recently.
What if we have them show up 3 times a year instead of 6 times a year? Have them come April, June, and August? You think about that, that's 3 times a year.
Is there any, I mean, I guess we could just come up with the contract we wanna see,
I don't
and
think
then
we
send it to them, and say if they can take it or leave it.
I don't think we should have any contract for something that somebody hasn't complained about. We don't need people just to come to our town and just look for things that may or may not.
Agree 100%.
Like
And that's-
storage
that's-
containers.
And that's what it is.
100%. So, but to Amanda's point though, if we want to be, we have to remain at arm's length so that there is no physical confrontations between neighbors, right? That's paramount. We can't put Logan in harm's way. None of us should have people knocking on our door at dinner time, ready to throw down. You know, because that can happen. It can very easily happen.
Well,
But
2 or
is this
3
the solution?
the situations was the 2 vans down on Dentler. And that guy got the letter from the lawyer, came up here and was mad as hell. We're not as big of a town to where you couldn't have came to my house and talked to me. Every time I went
Who's that
and,
gonna be, Perry?
Huh?
Who's that gonna be?
I've done it for 10 or 15 years. It's how you approach the people.
I do agree with that, I do agree with that. But you also have to be aware, we as a city don't wanna be liable for a car being on the grass and we go, oh yeah, they're nice people. You can catch somebody on a bad day, even though you talk to them correctly and right, and you've known them for 40 years. I've been there. So, my aspect of it is 100% safety. If it's $3,700 to save the city 20 million, or somebody getting a hammer to the head, because I've seen people get in fights over grass. It is, I mean,
Yeah.
that is just where I'm coming from. So, but I do understand the whole thing of, but you have to understand, times are changing, people are moving to Alleman that haven't been here for 30 years, 40, 50.
I want to give you an example, but I So Sherry and I dealt with an issue that pertained to two neighbors in an unnamed part of our town. And it was kind of a tit for tat thing. And there was a complaint about one thing, and I won't even name it, but the sheriff was brought into that because that was in their purview. And then, the other neighbor said, oh, well, I don't particularly like this. And the sheriff was brought into that as well, and that was a code issue. And that was resolved. I gave the code to the sheriff, and the sheriff handled that one. Because it was a kind of a tit for tat thing. It was just like, hey, I don't like you, you don't like me. And it's a very unique type of thing, but I guess that one was resolved that way. But they still kind of came to us. They still asked us about, well, what about this one? Okay, we told them, well, what about this one? We gave them a code. So I don't know, because I don't know that, would you agree that that was maybe not a code enforcement thing, I guess?
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like, I don't know if it could, I didn't know if it could have been considered a code enforcement thing or not. I mean, but.
I think we ought to see about doing 3 months out of the year, because I think if we get into doing it ourselves, we're gonna wind up with lawyer fees, we're gonna wind up with county sheriff support and getting a big bill from them. Who knows how this can weigh out. And if it get violent or something, or get assault and injury,
Well, yeah, I mean, and pretty much everybody knows where everybody lives.
yeah.
So it's potentially dangerous for us to be involved directly in any way. But I am 100% on board with Councilman Rosenblum here, because do we really want to be those people who have some Gestapo guy running around actively looking for violations that aren't bothering anybody? That's the double-edged sword right there that I see. So I am willing to discuss it in any capacity that somebody wants to put on the table.
Or have, call this company up and use them as needed.
Is that a possibility?
I can look into it.
I think last time they didn't want to do that. They wanted a year contract last time, but they appeased the council and went to a 6.
Oh, just
And the wage,
March through October.
yeah, and I think the numbers that they probably wanted are what came on this one, but they went to the budget that, I don't know, you guys came up with.
So don't ask them if they would, ask them what it would cost
Cost.
to do it that way. Don't ask them if they would.
As a
Ask them, and if they're not willing to do that, then they're not willing to do that.
That certainly addresses my problem with the unlimited mileage billing and the vagary of it all at this point. And to his point, if he's here every other week or every week or what, it's unnecessary. 100% unnecessary.
The thing I do want to say, and maybe it's not my place here, but I appreciate, Amanda, in your stance as like, it is a hard thing. I've had to do it. Sherry's had to do it. Sherry's stuck here all day. Anybody can come in at any time. It's an open building, it's a public building. I'm the guy that drives around every day. Everybody sees me, everybody knows me. So, putting us in that position when we did have to do it was very difficult for us.
Right.
I'm not saying for or against.
I had to have residents
That's not my
stop using
opinion.
a fire hydrant to fill their pool until I knew who was paying for that water that they were taking out of that fire hydrant. And what happened to me, I got said, I was going bat crap crazy. Nope, I just want that water shut off till I know who's paying for it.
But that's not your position, to confront them when they are on
Get it
ground
stopped.
doing that. You go back here and you call, the water department and see if they've got a permit, or you don't get out of your car and go up there and start telling them you can't do this.
No,
Who gave you
stop.
permission? You don't do that.
Stop with the water is what I said.
Yeah, you can't do that. Have you ever taken mitigation classes or confrontation classes? You were making it personal. You were the one standing there telling them to stop, and you shouldn't have. You should have went back to the office and called
Guys,
them.
we're getting off topic here. I mean, listen, I think you've got a proposal or the framework of a proposal for next month. We'll put it on the table and we can vote it up or down, or discuss it. But let's not go all different directions here.
No, she's putting herself at jeopardizing herself when you do that. You don't do that in the time that the occurrence is coming. That's what police are for, because they have radios and backup, and they're. I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to stop telling them not to do that. You report, and you do not make it a personal deal. That's where you get in trouble.
All right. Are we all done, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, we pretty much are. I suggest we think about it, maybe 3 months out of the year, or if we can call them and have them come out whenever. Just a couple thoughts there.
We'll write up, maybe we'll put together a couple, 3 proposals, and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
I think we know what, we'll figure it out. So, okay?
So I heard we're gonna have 3 options to choose from.
Well, yeah, you come up with 3 options, that sounds like.
All as needed, 6 months or
Going
3
on
months.
different directions here, but I don't mind doing that, but, we'll get there.
Well, Bob, just hold one thing that I meant to bring up but didn't. Is there any other company that does this? We don't have any other bids, right?
Amanda,
Well, you know what, I'm not sure if Snyder and Associates does it, or, other engineering companies, have that expertise. You have inspectors that inspect houses, real estate, type situations, but that's just something,
We did. There's
we
only
have to
2.
look at.
Him
So I
and
don't.
another one, and the other one told us that he didn't have time anymore. He originally gave us a proposal, but then he backed out of it, saying he did not have time to take on another city.
It's a lucrative business.
It is.
There's always somebody out there that, you get what you pay for, and we know what we want, I think, and, I would like to just, personally, I'd like to stick with Maester and Camp. They've treated us well, they work well with us in-house.
And we're continuing a contract or not continuing a contract.
And we seem like we always try to, go on the cheap, and save money, and that's good too, but, we just need to get this thing done and put to bed.
Will do.
Secondary.
Any other questions?
And you know what, think about it, we'll talk about it again at the March meeting.
So give us some thought, guys.
I already did.
I'm no.
Oh, what do you propose?
When we get commercial property,
And
and
I've been told that, I believe that, there will only be 4 people vote. I'm not sure, I've conferred with the lawyer here lately, but, there'll just be 4 councilmen voting, so.
Why not 5th? There's
Well,
5 of
the
us.
5th is part of the, enforcement action, and that one would be a conflict of interest, I believe.
for code enforcement.
Well,
Why would that be
you
a,
know,
why would that be a
I'm not gonna
conflict of
discuss that
interest?
tonight, I'll discuss that personally, with the lawyer and the person involved, and we'll use that.
How would that possibly, that's ridiculous.
That's how you set the table for your agenda.
That's how you make things your own way and just get things done under the table and don't include the whole thing.
No, it's not gonna be done under the table because the person involved will be at the table. And you can ask all the questions that they want, so. So, I would, you know, that's it, that's enough for the evening, I think.
I think we got everything we need for tonight. Anybody else got any questions? Let's call her a day. Thanks, Bob.